Okay, season 14 support tier list. This is for competitive. These are my opinions on power level. Let's get into it. F tier, these are bottom of the barrel piss champions. Karthus, I think, now that support item doesn't give any stats level 1, I think he is pretty hard nerfed. The champ is in support, very reliant on snowballing from level 1, and his white on spike is weaker. Callista, similarly, she has just shittier stats level 1. Trundle, he lost Radiant. Morgana lost all of her fucking items and stopwatch rune. Oriana lost Shirelia's. I think she was underrated in support, but she was very reliant on Shirelia's. Talia, I think super fringe, but Riley Mandate might be viable. D tier, Amumu is, I mean, he's still really oppressive level 1. The problem is, like, the crown upgrade, for example, is not very good for him because in team fights, he's mostly just going in, ulting, and dying anyways. He doesn't get much value after that, in support at least. So he doesn't really like... He lost Even Shroud, and none of the support upgrades are very good for him. Pantheon, he does like Bloodsong and Crown, oppressive in lane. It's fine. Set, similarly, he does like Trailblazer as a dead man's replacement. Zilliant kind of lost all his items. He lost Everfrost. He lost Shirelia's. I mean, he might still build Shirelia's, to be honest. But Mandate Change is like okay for him. And Solstice Slay is also the move speed upgrade is somewhat interesting for him, but I think the champ is in a really bad spot. Also, a lot of CDR has been removed from the game, and Zillion's super reliant on CDR. Caitlyn, again, no stats level 1. Teemo, really interesting with Malignance and ZX. Might be kind of insane. Hui, I think this champ is not that strong in support. I think compared to other major supports, he doesn't bully that hard early game. I could be wrong about this. And his zone control is... He does have really long range zone control with his EE, I believe it is. But I think he's not that great in support. Camille really likes both Bloodsong and Crown Upgrade. I think this champ is kind of interesting in support this patch. C tier, my man Thresh really needs some love. I think he hates every single one of the support upgrades. Shirelia's change is bad for him. He loses the HP from it. He kind of just has to go lock it now. Zeke's is bad for him now. Like, mages are buffed. Like, I don't know. This... he needs some love. Lulu, she lost Shirelia's. Like, the move speed passive was really, really important for her. And she's also, like, her power level has been quite weak for a while now. And, like, with the Shirelia's passive moving to staff, I mean, any champ that you pair her with doesn't want staff, they want Ardent. Ardent does give you a little bit of move speed now, but I do think Lulu is just in a generally shit spot right now. Yumi, I think, is the best abuser of the Dream Bubble support upgrade. Zyra, she lost Leandri, so she's not super, super strong, but she does use Zazax quite well. Seraphine, I would almost always rather to have any other enchanter on my team than Seraphine as support, but yeah, the champ is really weird after the changes. Zac, a lot of the champs here, Zac, Sejuani, Jarvan, Gragas, these champs all abuse the crown upgrade really, really hard. The crown upgrade is so good for like tanks who don't have enough innate tankiness to be support, right? Like Leona, for example, has her W, so you know that's she doesn't rely on items to be tanky. But these champs don't have something similar. But the crown upgrade is huge for those champs because it gives them 40% damage reduction, which I think for Zac is big. The like map changes to mid lane do kind of suck for Zac. It's a bit harder for him to engage, but I still think the changes are really, really good for Zac in support. Same with Sejuani. Xerath, I think, I don't know why you would want Xerath over any other mage support in a game, but obviously his itemization is buffed. Belveth, interestingly, after the changes to her E, she got substantially worse in support and the changes to Even Shroud, but she does use Bloodsong really, really well and Trailblazer really, really well. I actually think this champ scales way better in support now. And in certain lanes, certain matchup, her trade pattern is really oppressive and has very little counterplay. So this champ's pretty interesting in support. Misfortune, I think if she goes Ingenious, she is the best abuser of Zazax in the game. and she'll just build Ludens, even though she lost Leandri. I think with Ingenious it's fine. Lysandra lost Even Shroud and Radiant. A bit of a rough spot. I think she used to be pretty strong in support. But yeah, the item changes are not super great for her. Poppy, Crown Upgrade, Trailblazer, very good. She used to just be not tanky enough to do her job in support. I think Crown Upgrade helps mitigate that. Zig support is kind of funny, but it's here mostly because there's a higher possibility of early lane swaps from bot to top, and Zig's support is actually pretty insane in those situations for just sprinting down towers and clearing the grubs. So I think it's an interesting idea. And Gragas Jarvan just used the Crown Upgrade really, really well. Jarvan doesn't, even though Jarvan lost Zhonya's, or lost the Stopwatch rune, he doesn't even need Zhonya's anymore with 40% damage reduction. So kind of insane. B tier, Karma is in an interesting spot in support. She has definitely been underrated for a while. Early game, obviously, she's really oppressive. And now she can build Moonstone, like third item, to actually like scale. She does lose Shirelia's, but it's also possible she can build Malignance in support. Something like Malignance Mandate and then Moonstone is like a really interesting idea in support. But I do think this champ is underrated. Fiddle, with Crown Upgrade and Malignance, and now that Rocket Belt is 700 gold cheaper, I think Fiddlestick support is very hard buffed. This champ is actually pretty impressive, and his dives at level 6 are fucking stupid. Renata, she doesn't like any of the support upgrades, but like this champ is still just very, very good against so many team comps. She's not item reliant, so yeah, she's still up here. Nautilus loves the Crown upgrade. Nasus loves the Slay upgrade. Now he gets free move speed, and his allies get free move speed whenever he presses W, which is pretty ridiculous. And Frozen Heart is back to its old 2,300 gold cost, which is huge. Pyke is pretty interesting. This is a competitive tier list, and he is in B tier. The reason is I think he is the best user of Crown Upgrade in the game. He actually scales now with 40% damage reduction and the slow when he procs Crown. It's really stupid. And lethality itemization is really, 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 really nice for Pyke. This champ is scary. The only thing that's been nerfed about him is level 1 and early lane. He is weaker because the support item gives no stats, but obviously he still just naturally stat checks most range supports. Ashe, obviously nerfed level 1 without stats, and she doesn't, I mean, she does use Bloodsong reasonably well. But the like part of the game that you kind of pick her for, which is early game, she is substantially weaker. Maokai loves this Crown upgrade. It's possibly stronger in support than jungle now. He loves the Crown upgrade. He loves Trailblazer, the new support Deadman's. He loves these items. Taric, he did lose Radiant, but he's never been really item reliant. This champ is still fine. Same thing with Kench. Lux, obviously, support itemization is buffed. Mage support itemization is buffed. But I do think there are better abusers of it. Nami, kind of interesting with Slay. The interaction with her E is pretty cool. So whenever she puts E on her ally and they slow an enemy, they suddenly get a fuckload of move speed, and so does Nami. Which is really toxic for certain combinations. The move speed is really, really gross. She kind of gets Shirelia's for free, so she just builds Mandate, and obviously the fact that there's no Mythics is great for her, and the Mandate change is also very good for her, because now when she procs it, it goes off of current HP. So if someone's just going in for some burst, Mandate's going to be doing hella damage. Janna, I think the changes to her are overall bad for her in competitive, good for her in solo queue, bad for competitive. I think she doesn't scale as well now that she doesn't take Glacial. Her itemization is weird. Sure, she can build Moonstone like later if she needs to, but she is still very toxic against certain team comps, melee heavy, bruiser heavy, tank heavy team comps, and she's a little stronger in lane now. She can also, in theory, go Bloodsong with Hill of Blades, which is a funny, interesting idea. Curious if that ever comes out. A tier, Milio. Milio's still like really, really strong. One of the like, his curve is so good. His ult is toxic against so many champs. Champ is just in a really, really good spot and uses both the Dream Bubble upgrade and the Crown upgrade quite well. Rel loves the Crown upgrade. Zeke's is kind of a funny idea to like keep her in her ult, but like the Zeke's range is so short, I don't even know how good that is. Nico loves the Nico support, at least loves the rocket belt changes. It's 700 gold cheaper now and is really a utility item, which is like exactly what Nico is buying it for in support. And this champ is still very oppressive early game, and obviously she has endless options with mage itemization, so really, really strong right now. Braum loves the Slay upgrade. Now when he throws Q, it's a lot easier for his allies to follow up and proc his passive with things like Lucian Braum or Kog'Maw Braum or whatever. They get free move speed when he hits Q. Really, really big, I think. And his itemization has not been affected at all. I mean, he did lose Radiant, but like I think it's not a big deal for him. Blitzcrank, he does lose Everfrost, but Shirelia's change is fine for him if he goes Crown upgrade, or he can opt for something like Trailblazer with Bloodsong. So now every time he Qs someone, he gets, they take 12% more damage, and he procs the Sheen thing twice if he goes Q auto, E auto. So this champ is pretty strong. Soraka, now she can build Moonstone like second item. Maybe she goes Redemption first, and it still gives haste. Really, really nice for her. And she can also go Crown upgrade against Heavy Dive. She can also go Moonstone and Locket against Heavy Dive, which is really, really nice for her. Alistar, obviously Radiant was really insane on this champ, but the Slay upgrade basically functions as Phase Rush for him, which is really nice. And Zeke's is also really good for him. So now when he does like EQ ult, for example, the slow helps him keep people in his E, which is pretty nice. Bard, he can kind of use Slay or Bloodsong. I will say like nothing's really changed about Bard, honestly, this patch. But I think some of his worst lane matchups have gotten better because the support item gives no stats. Zoe, still really, really toxic in support, and you can also go Storm Surge first item as Zoe support. You will basically always proc it every single time you like sleep someone and hit Q. The only bad thing is like the mid lane changes make it so like in like mid lane standoffs it's harder for you to like randomly hit bubbles. And also the Storm Surge passive scales off of level, which doesn't feel great for support. But I think this champ is still obscenely oppressive in support. Leona with the Bloodsong is kind of crazy, actually. She's already so tanky that you can just go Bloodsong, and her cooldowns are so low that she's like proccing the Sheen a lot. And she gets even short, like 12% extra damage is like really gross. Or if she just wants to be giga tanky, she can be crown. She can get crown and then like use her W after the crown goes away, and it's like this champ is just not killable. I think she is going to be really fucking obnoxious. Sona now, she can go Moonstone later. She can go Helia and Moonstone, and also Seraph's is buffed if she needs it. Although I do think Seraph's is overbought on this champ. Heimer. The mage support upgrade, Zazex, is really best on supports who rush Riley, and obviously Heimer is the best support that rushes Riley. The other thing is the supports losing stats level 1 doesn't affect Heimer very much compared to most other like oppressive lane supports. So I think Heimer's in a really good spot. Okay, S tier. You're probably wondering why Ezreal is here, and the answer is right in front of you. This Bloodsong item is kind of crazy for Ezreal, and he abuses it better than any other champ in the game. Now, it's possible, I'll be honest, it's possible Ezreal is I would say no lower than B tier. But this item is really, really, really insane for him in support. And he has some interesting itemization, like the new Shojin is really, really good for him. He can go Voltaic, and now his Q slows for no reason. He can go Airy with Voltaic, and his Q slows for 20%. Like, very cool. And he has Even Shroud on his Q. Like, I don't know. This champ scales really hard in support now. In addition, now that after 20 minutes your whole team gets buffs after you kill them, like this champ with Shojin and red buff and this item is going to be so obnoxious to play against later in the game. As support, his choke control will be so gross. He can get vision so easily with his E. He can play so far up in your face. And he's obviously pretty oppressive in lane as well. He can like very easily also like poke past the minion wave, kind of like Karma, but with like a very short Q cooldown, and like not take minion aggro. So like it's pretty impressive. Senna is obviously here also because of this item. Her itemization is still great. She still has a lot of options. Umbral is a bit nerfed. But she has other lethality item options if she wants to do that. Or Bork is also still very good for her. And yeah. Rakan's here, still very, very, very strong champ. Also, the crown upgrade is so good for him. It mitigates his biggest weakness as a champ, which is basically getting blown up whenever he tries to do anything mid-late game. With 40% damage reduction, it makes that way, way, way harder. But he does lose Radiant, and Shirelia's lost HP, so it's like not ideal for him to build that item either. But I think the champ is still very strong. That's about it. If you got any, if you disagree with anything on here, if you got any thoughts or you got any suggestions or some hot pocket picks you want to share, please let me know. And if you like it, subscribe to see more. Thanks.